Imagine hearing about men who dared to mock Jesus Christ and suffered the most terrible consequences. Today, we will explore the stories of 15 people who dared to mock Jesus, his power, and his divinity, and who faced terrible consequences. Let's begin. Number 1. John Lennon. John Lennon, one of the most influential members of the Beatles, made a controversial statement in 1966 that resonated worldwide. He said, "Christianity will go. It will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue about that. I'm right and I will be proved right. We're more popular than Jesus now. I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity." This statement was met with shock and outrage, especially in heavily Christian countries like the United States. There were boycotts of the Beatles' music, record burnings, and a flood of criticism against the band. Lennon later tried to retract his statement, but the damage was already done. The impact of Lennon's words is a clear example of how blasphemies and disrespectful statements can generate deep and lasting repercussions. In 1980, Lennon was assassinated by Mark David Chapman, an obsessed fan who cited Lennon's own statement as one of the motivations for his act. Chapman shot Lennon 5 times, hitting him 4 times in the back and shoulder. Lennon was taken to the hospital but did not survive his injuries. His death shocked the world and left an indelible mark on music history. The lives of public figures like John Lennon are often scrutinized closely, and their statements can have a lasting impact. Despite his undeniable talent and contribution to music, Lennon left a powerful warning about the power of words and the need for respect for spiritual values. His story serves as a grim reminder that mocking the sacred can have unpredictable and devastating consequences. Number 2. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, met a tragic fate that many associate with her attitude towards Christianity. On one occasion, when Billy Graham, the famous evangelist, visited Monroe during a performance of her show, he said that the Spirit of God had sent him to preach to her. After listening to what the preacher had to say, she replied, "I don't need your Jesus." A few days later, on August 5, 1962, Monroe was found dead in her Brentwood, Los Angeles apartment. The official cause of death was a barbiturate overdose, but many speculate that there was more to the story. Marilyn Monroe, born Norma Jean Mortensen, was an iconic figure in American cinema, famous for her charisma, beauty, and talent. However, her personal life was marked by difficulties, including a troubled childhood, mental health issues, and a series of tumultuous relationships. Her success on the big screen was not enough to bring the peace she so desired in her personal life. Monroe's interaction with Billy Graham is often cited as a key moment symbolizing her rejection of Christianity and faith. Graham, known for his ability to touch hearts with his words, certainly saw something in Monroe that motivated him to share the gospel message with her. However, Monroe's cold and disdainful response is remembered as a symbol of her disconnection from spiritual faith. Monroe's death shocked the world and left many questions unanswered. Although officially considered a suicide, there are theories that suggest she may have been a victim of murder due to her connections with powerful figures, including the Kennedys. Regardless of the exact circumstances, her tragic death at the age of 36 serves as a reminder of human vulnerability and the potential consequences of rejecting spirituality. Number 3. Thomas Andrews. Thomas Andrews, the designer of the RMS Titanic, is another example of how arrogance can lead to downfall. Andrews and the Titanic's construction team proclaimed that the ship was unsinkable due to its advanced design and watertight compartments. This pride and excessive confidence were symbolized by the famous declaration attributed to a White Star Line employee, "Not even God could sink this ship." On April 15, 1912, during its maiden voyage, the Titanic collided with an iceberg and sank, resulting in the deaths of more than 1,500 people, including Andrews. The tragedy of the Titanic is frequently seen as a reminder of human fragility and the futility of arrogance in the face of nature's uncontrollable force and divine will. Andrews, as the chief architect, was last seen helping passengers escape and trying to save lives until the end. The sinking of the Titanic was one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history. Built at the Harland and Wolff shipyards in Belfast, the Titanic was a symbol of technological progress and luxury. Its first-class accommodations were comparable to the best hotels of the time and were equipped with the most advanced safety technologies available. However, blind confidence in the ship's invulnerability led to a catastrophic disaster. On that fateful night, the Titanic was sailing at high speed despite warnings of icebergs in the area. When the ship collided with the iceberg, the watertight compartments that were supposed to keep it afloat failed to contain the flooding. In just a few hours, the unsinkable Titanic was at the bottom of the North Atlantic, taking hundreds of lives with it. Thomas Andrews is frequently remembered as a tragic hero. During the sinking, he was seen distributing life vests, helping women and children into lifeboats, and ensuring passengers understood the gravity of the situation. His dedication until the final moments highlights his character, but also serves as a somber testament to the consequences of human pride and arrogance. Number 4. Annas. Annas, one of the most influential high priests in Jerusalem, played a central role in condemning Jesus. The New Testament recounts that he was the first to interrogate Jesus after his arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane. John 18 verses 13 to 24. During that interrogation, Annas demonstrated contempt and disrespect for Jesus' message. Even in the face of Jesus' wisdom and calm, he remained relentless, determined to see the end of one he considered a threat to his authority and religious privileges. Shortly after the crucifixion, Annas was deposed from his position of power, and his political maneuvers could not save him from the disgrace that followed. Historical tradition tells us that he died in a dishonorable manner, a reminder that divine justice cannot be subverted by earthly power. The fall of Annas serves as a warning that those who oppose truth and divine justice will meet a tragic end. Number 5. Charles Manson. Charles Manson, leader of a cult that committed brutal murders in the 1960s, also engaged in acts of extreme evil. Manson and his followers, known as the Manson family, murdered several people, including actress Sharon Tate, in an attempt to incite a racial war that Manson called Helter Skelter. He claimed to be the reincarnation of Christ and used manipulation and violence to control his followers. Manson was born in 1934 and spent most of his youth in correctional institutions. In the 1960s, he formed the Manson family, a group of young followers he manipulated through drugs, sex, and indoctrination. Manson distorted biblical teachings and used them to justify his evil plans, claiming he was a messiah destined to lead his followers through a racial apocalypse. In 1969, Manson ordered a series of brutal murders, including those at the home of Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant. The murders were committed by his followers, but Manson was considered the intellectual mentor for inciting and planning the crimes. Manson and his followers were widely publicized, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment, where he spent the rest of his life until his death in 2017. The life and crimes of Manson are a terrifying testament to the consequences of rejecting spiritual values and adopting violence and deception. Manson used his ability to manipulate and indoctrinate to lead his followers to commit horrible acts, all under the false claim of being a messianic figure. His story serves as a warning about the danger of false prophets and corrupt spiritual leadership. Number 6. Jim Jones. Jim Jones, leader of the People's Temple, manipulated and deceived many to achieve his goals. Promising a communal paradise, Jones led his followers to Guyana, where he established the community of Jonestown. Initially, Jonestown was presented as a utopia, but it quickly became a nightmare of control, manipulation, and fear. Jones used drugs, brainwashing, and threats of violence to keep his followers under control. On November 18, 1978, Jim Jones led more than 900 people to a collective suicide in one of the most tragic events in modern history. When Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown to investigate human rights abuses, he and several others were killed by Jones' followers. Fearing retaliation, Jones ordered his followers to drink cyanide-laced punch, resulting in the deaths of 918 people, including more than 300 children. Jones's manipulation and the tragedy of Jonestown reflect the story of Caiaphas, showing the devastating consequences of corruption and deception. Caiaphas, the high priest who orchestrated Jesus' arrest, manipulated the trial to ensure the condemnation. He used his power and influence to satisfy his own interests, leading to Jesus' crucifixion. Similarly, Jones used his leadership position to manipulate and destroy lives. Jones often quoted the Bible to justify his actions, perverting religious teachings for his benefit. He demanded absolute loyalty and promoted the idea that he was the only true spiritual leader. His actions led to a massive tragedy and serve as a grim example of what can happen when spiritual leaders abuse their power. The Jonestown tragedy remains one of the clearest warnings about the dangers of following charismatic leaders without question. Similar to the false prophets mentioned by Jesus, Jim Jones used his influence to deceive and destroy, and his story underscores the importance of spiritual discernment and vigilance against those who use religion to manipulate and control. Number 7. Caiaphas. Caiaphas, the high priest who played a crucial role in Jesus' trial, is another example of how opposing divine justice can lead to tragic consequences. Caiaphas, in his quest to maintain power and influence, conspired with other religious leaders to have Jesus arrested and condemned. He sought to silence Jesus and his message, seeing it as a threat to the established order. However, shortly after Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, Caiaphas lost his position and influence. Historical accounts suggest that he died a tragic and dishonorable death, reinforcing the idea that those who oppose divine justice cannot escape its consequences. Caiaphas's story serves as a powerful reminder that human authority and power are temporary and can be overturned by divine justice. His actions during Jesus' trial, driven by fear and self-interest, led to his downfall and disgrace. This serves as a stark warning to those who misuse their positions of power to oppose righteousness and truth. Number 8. Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, is known for his declaration "God is dead," which he published in his book, The Gay Science, in 1882. Nietzsche's philosophy questioned traditional values and the role of religion in society. His statement "God is dead" reflected his belief that modernity and rationality had rendered religious beliefs obsolete. However, Nietzsche's life took a tragic turn. He suffered a mental breakdown in 1889 and spent the last 11 years of his life in a state of mental incapacity, cared for by his family. Nietzsche's philosophy profoundly influenced modern thought, but his own life serves as a reminder of the potential consequences of rejecting spiritual values. Despite his intellectual achievements, Nietzsche's personal struggles and tragic end highlight the complexities and dangers of questioning fundamental truths about existence and morality. Number 9. Voltaire. Voltaire, an Enlightenment writer, philosopher, and outspoken critic of Christianity, often mocked religious beliefs. He once declared, "In 20 years, Christianity will be no more. My single hand shall destroy the edifice it took 12 apostles to rear." However, Voltaire's life ended in a state of despair and agony. On his deathbed, he reportedly cried out to Jesus Christ for mercy, a stark contrast to his previous stance. Voltaire's story serves as a powerful reminder that mocking and rejecting faith can lead to a life of inner turmoil and despair. Despite his intellectual contributions and influence, his final moments reflected a deep recognition of the spiritual truths he had spent his life denying. Number 10. Alistair Crowley. Alistair Crowley, known as the wickedest man in the world, was an English occultist and black magician who practiced Satanism and other forms of occultism. He openly mocked Christianity and promoted his own religion, Thelema, which was based on the principles of "do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," and "love is the law, love under will." Crowley's practices included rituals, drug use, and sexual promiscuity, all in opposition to Christian values. Crowley's life was marked by scandal, addiction, and controversy. He died in 1947 in poverty and poor health, his legacy tainted by his dark and destructive practices. Crowley's story serves as a reminder of the dangers of turning away from spiritual truth and embracing practices that lead to personal and moral degradation. Number 11. Anton LaVey. Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan and author of the Satanic Bible, openly mocked Christianity and promoted satanic rituals and beliefs. LaVey's Church of Satan, founded in 1966, gained notoriety for its provocative and anti-Christian stance. LaVey's teachings and practices included hedonism, self-indulgence, and the rejection of traditional moral values. Levy's life ended in 1997, reportedly with him recanting some of his beliefs on his deathbed. Although the details of his death remain controversial, his legacy as a promoter of Satanism and his mockery of Christianity serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of rejecting spiritual values and embracing darkness. Number 12. José Saramago. José Saramago, a Nobel Prize-winning Portuguese writer, was known for his atheistic views and criticism of religion. In his novel, The Gospel According to Jesus Christ, he depicted a controversial and humanized version of Jesus, which sparked outrage among Christians. Saramago's portrayal of religious figures and his atheistic stance were seen as mockery and disrespect towards Christianity. Saramago died in 2010, leaving behind a legacy of literary achievement but also controversy over his views on religion. His story serves as a reminder of the potential consequences of using one's talents and influence to mock and undermine spiritual values. Number 13. John Denver. John Denver, a popular American singer and songwriter, once made a joke on television, saying, "I'm more famous than God now." This statement was seen by many as disrespectful and blasphemous. Denver's life was marked by success and popularity, but it also had its share of struggles, including issues with alcohol and troubled relationships. In 1997, Denver died in a plane crash, which many saw as a tragic and ironic end to a life that had once mocked divine power. His story serves as a reminder of the potential consequences of disrespecting spiritual values and the importance of humility. Number 14. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, a martial arts icon and actor, once said, "I am the best fighter in the world. No one can defeat me." While not directly mocking Jesus, Lee's statement reflected a pride and confidence that many saw as bordering on arrogance. Lee's life was marked by incredible achievements and contributions to martial arts and cinema, but it was also cut short. In 1973, at the age of 32, Lee died unexpectedly from a cerebral edema. His sudden and mysterious death left many speculating about the consequences of pride and overconfidence. Lee's story serves as a reminder of the importance of humility and the unpredictability of life. Number 15. Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens, a well-known atheist and critic of religion, often mocked Christianity and other faiths in his writings and speeches. In his book God Is Not Great, Hitchens argued against the existence of God and criticized religious beliefs and practices. Hitchens's sharp wit and provocative style made him a prominent figure in the atheist movement. In 2011, Hitchens died of esophageal cancer. Despite his rejection of faith throughout his life, his story serves as a reminder of the limitations of human understanding and the potential consequences of mocking and rejecting spiritual beliefs.